Us now. He's the executive president at the Center for International Policy. Thank you so much for being here with us. And initially, what was your reaction overall to Trump's remarks today? What were your biggest takeaways? I think especially considering it surprised a lot of people how domestic focused it was.
Right. And well, Donald Trump's main audience is always his own base, and I think the speech seemed like a slightly more muted version of his usual kind of stump speech with these rambling discursions. But kind of packaged slightly more for the international audience that was there in that hall. But it always comes back to Donald Trump. I'm not being given appropriate credit for all the great things I am doing. I mean, there was just a litany of demonstrable falsehoods. It was really hard to keep track of the various lies in that speech, but it really does always come back to Donald Trump is great, and why don't people give him the appropriate credit?
And in the soundbite we played there, you heard him talk about this a little bit, but a lot of the conversation surrounding Palestinian statehood seems to, in some cases, rely on some caveats. Italy, specifically, saying that the exclusion of Hamas, the release of the hostages, is top of mind for them. Do you think that other countries might move forward and support some carve-outs like that?
I think they will. I mean, there have always been, conditions on Palestinian statehood. Certainly, everyone wants to see a Palestinian state at peace with Israel. This has always been the understanding behind support for the two-state solution. But I do think it's worth pausing and responding to what Trump said, that recognition of a Palestinian state would be a reward for terrorism, a reward for October 7. That is the opposite of the truth. Recognizing a Palestinian state is a reward for diplomacy. Hamas itself opposes a two-state solution. Hamas does not recognize Israel. Its ultimate goal is to replace Israel with a state of Palestine on all the territory. So it simply makes no sense that Hamas would see the creation of a Palestinian state alongside Israel as a victory. But I also think it's an acknowledgement that part of what led to the atmosphere that enabled the October 7 attack was the lack of any hope, the lack of any political horizon for the Palestinian people, for their own liberation, for an end to occupation, for an end to the blockade of Gaza that had gone on for many years. And in that environment of hopelessness, Hamas and other extremist groups draw strength. So to the extent that we want to empower more moderate voices and show that nonviolence and diplomacy can deliver for Palestinians, I think that this recognition of the state of Palestine could be helpful.
And what about the Russia of it all? Today, the president pointed out that he believes their economy is weak. We know that he's also calling on European countries to stop buying Russian oil and gas. There's also fingers being pointed at India and China there as well. Do you think he's going to win that kind of support?
Well, I think, what he's saying does make some sense. Europe has been, obviously, supporting the Ukrainians in the war, defending their country, but continue to buy, Russian oil and Russian natural gas. I think what we heard from Trump about, should NATO respond if Russia violates its airspace, and answered yes. Again, it's hard to keep track of where Trump is from one day to the other, but if there is any consistent through line here, it's that Trump feels that the European countries should step up and take more responsibility for their own security. And that's something that, frankly, I think makes some sense.
And perhaps now is the time to do that on this national stage. Right. Matt Duss, thank you so much for your insight.